morning, everyone. So we'll start with the today's daily newspaper analysis. This is Shubham on behalf of CLAT Possible, and let's get into it. So the first article is about the motion of thanks and the debate which is going around that, where the opposition and the ruling party is basically accusing each other of doing certain things which are not politically healthy. So yesterday, the Prime Minister addressed the Parliament on the motion of thanks debate and said that the mudslinging which is going around the ruling party will only help the ruling party to grow further. But all of that is not important. But when you look at this article, you'll find out there are a couple of things which you need to know about. So, first thing you need to know about what exactly is a motion of thanks. Now, that's the first thing you need to know about. But when you go and continue to page 12, you'll find that in the second part of the article, the Prime Minister has also accused Congress of manipulating or misusing Article 356 to impose president's rule and getting rid of elected governments in the past, which has been most frequently done during the Indira Gandhi rule. So we need to know about these two things specifically when we talk about this article. So you can see, right, how there is an article which seems like a political article but has a certain important points which you need to be aware of. Okay. So first thing which we'll talk about is the motion of thanks. Now what is a motion of thanks? Motion of thanks के लिए पहले हमें समझना होगा some portion of parliamentary procedure. Now there's an article 87 which says that the end of every year, financial year, there has to be a special address by president. ठीक है. So president will have a special address to the parliament. इस special address में क्या होगा? There will be a statement of policy. ठीक है. Statement of policy is nothing but the intent of government, that what it is going to do ahead. Policy decisions कैसे लेगी, किन चीज़ों पे focus होगा government का. Second, the special address will also have items of legislative business which the government is going to do. कैसे अमेंडमेंट्स आने वाले हैं, कौन से लॉज पास होने वाले हैं. ऑल ऑफ द एजेंडा गोइंग इनटू द नेक्स्ट ईयर विल बी पुट फॉरवर्ड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट. नाउ व्हेन दिस एड्रेस हैज बीन डन, व्हाट विल हैपन? This address will be discussed by both of the houses. Opposition will also discuss it. Ruling party will try to defend it. ठीक है. And in light of all of this, we are seeing that a lot of personal speeches are being going. Rahul Gandhi has also addressed. Take a leader of opposition has also addressed the parliament, accused government of XYZ things. PM Modi has yesterday defended its stance, accused opposition of XYZ things. Okay. After all of this happens, there is a motion which is kept in the front of both of the houses regarding this special address. Okay. So a motion is presented in front of both of the houses, ठीक है, which is called as motion of thanks, which is in regards to this special address. Now what is a motion of thanks? It is a parliamentary motion which is put in front of both of the houses. When passed, will approve the special address by the president, which also contains the statement of policy and items of legislative business. ठीक है. तो मोशन ऑफ थैंक्स जब पास होता है, इट मीन्स दैट द पार्लियामेंट अप्रूव्स द स्टेटमेंट ऑफ पॉलिसी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एंड इट ऑल्सो अप्रूव द आइटम्स ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव बिजनेस विच आर टू बी प्रपोज्ड. सो बेसिकली इट मीन्स कि गवर्नमेंट के प्लान को आप अप्रूव कर रहे हो when you pass the motion of thanks. Okay. And this concept has also been inspired by the speech from the throne which happens in Britain, which is the equivalent of motion of thanks of India. So ब्रिटेन में भी ये प्रैक्टिस होती है. इट्स नोन एज द स्पीच फ्रॉम द थ्रोन वेयर द क्राउन addresses the parliament of the Britain. Okay. So we have discussed the special address. A motion of thanks has been presented. When the motion of thanks is put to vote, it has to be passed by simple majority in both of the houses. Now what is a simple majority? The people who are present and voting, at least 50% of them should vote in favor of the motion of thanks. If that is done in both of the houses, the motion of thanks is passed. Okay. And The very important thing about motion of thanks, it has to be passed. If the motion of thanks is not passed, it means that आपकी पार्लियामेंट को आप पे ट्रस्ट ही नहीं है. So you as a government are coming up with statement of policy, you are coming up with items of legislative business, and you are not able to get it passed. इसका मतलब क्या है? That your parliament does not trust you, and hence you will lose the confidence of the parliament and your government will fall down. So it's very important that the motion of thanks is passed. Now moving on to Article 356, which is nothing but the President's rule, also known as constitutional emergency. Okay. Now presidential rule is imposed how? So for imposition of president rule, the governor, when he is aware that the situation of the state or the state government is not good, okay, so the sentence or the term which the constitution uses, if he here is governor, is satisfied that the situation has arisen in which the government of the state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the constitution. So where there is a violation of constitution, federalism, फंडामेंटल राइट्स, ऐसी चीज़ों का वायलेशन हो रहा है बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, देन द गवर्नर विल प्रिपेयर अ रिपोर्ट where he will mention all of these things, and he will then pass it to the president. Okay. On this report, the union government will take a decision and they will pass a motion. They will pass a resolution to impose president rules. अब ये resolution both houses में जाएगी, and it will, if passed in both of the houses, will be functional. It will suspend the state government. The rule of the state will come under direct control of the union government, and the governor will take the care of the state on behalf of or representing the president, and that is why it's called as the president rule. ठीक है. State government will stand suspended, union government will take over the state rule, and governor will basically represent or take actions representing the president. Okay. But we know president cannot act on its own. President always had to act on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. Okay. So it's actually the council of ministers which is controlling the state in the president's rule. Now how far this can go till? So at a single time this rule can only extend up to 6 months. एक बार अगर आपने अप्रूव किया, it will go up to 6 months. If you want to extend it, you will have to come again to the parliament and pass another resolution, another motion, okay, and it will get extended by 6 more months. But this extension continuously cannot go more than 3 years. आप 6 मंथ करके उसको हमेशा के लिए नहीं चला सकते. Okay, it has to stop somewhere, and maximum 3 years it can be extended up to. Okay, so this is about the president's rule. Okay, now let's move on to the next article of the day, which is about the Afghanistan meeting. Now this Afghanistan meeting which we are talking about is called the Regional Dialogue on Afghanistan, and this is the 5th edition which is being conducted about the Afghanistan in Moscow. Okay. So this discusses the situation of Afghanistan, and this concerns mostly India, China, Russia, and the Central Asian states. Okay. So when you look at the people participating, you will find the Central Asian states in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. There's also India, there's also China, there's Russia, and there's also Iran. Okay. ठीक है. So this meeting was the 5th edition of the Regional Dialogue on Afghanistan conducted in Moscow. By the way, the 3rd edition was conducted by India in New Delhi, where the NSA, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, was the chair of this regional dialogue. Okay, so he has also went and visited Moscow to attend this meeting, and Then they have told how India and Afghanistan relations are right now. So, pointing the same out that India has not recognized the Taliban government officially till now, but we have a unit in Afghanistan as we talk, which is taking care of humanitarian aid and assistance to the people of Afghanistan. Also, in the recent budget, our government has allotted 200 crores of rupees for assistance to Afghanistan. Okay, so we are continuously helping Afghanistan in the crisis they are in. Okay, so that's the essence of the article. But since we are talking about the NSA, let's talk about something called the National Security Council. Now, the National Security Council is a executive body. Okay, it's an executive body whose main function is to advise the Prime Minister's office or the PM on topics of national security and strategic interest. अब ये NSC आई कब? ये NSC आई 1998 में. Okay, this was established by the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, and the first national security advisor was Brajesh Mishra. Okay, the composition of the National Security Advisor, when we look at National Security Council, my bad, when we look at it, we have the NSA, obviously, who acts as a secretary to the National Security Council, because the National Security Council is headed by the PM. So there's the PM at the top. After that, there's a secretary who is the National Security Advisor. We have Deputy National Security Advisors also, and we have members of civil services as well as army officials in the National Security Council. Okay, the headquarters of this National Security Council is in New Delhi. No points for guessing that. Okay, so this is the National Security Council and the fifth regional dialogue on Afghanistan, which has been conducted in Moscow this year. Okay, now let's move on to the next article, which is another important article from science and tech point of view. This is regarding the second development flight of the SSLV, small satellite launch vehicle. We are already aware how important it was when it was launched for the first time last year. So just to give you a recap, last year the SSLV had its first development flight where it carried Earth Observation Satellite 2 and Azadi Sat 1. Okay, now what happened to that development flight? The flight was successful, but the problem was it placed the satellites in the wrong orbit. Okay, so the mission failed basically because the satellite became inoperable. Now, this is a second flight which has been announced of the SSLV, and it will carry 3 satellites. So, an increase. So, what are the 3 satellites? First is the Earth Observation Satellite 07. The second satellite is called Yanis 1, which is a foreign company satellite. It's not ours. It's a satellite of a company based in US called Antares. Yanis 1. And the third satellite again is an Azadi Sat, this time Azadi Sat 2, which is been created by Space Kids India, which is a Chennai based organization. Space Kids India. Okay, the features obviously are there in the newspaper. They have mentioned it. So they have told us about the weight of the EOS-07, which is a 156.3 kg satellite. Okay, now this satellite is focusing on development of micro satellite technology. Okay, and there are multiple technologies they are going to test through this launching of satellite. The second satellite, which is a Yanis 1 satellite, now that function is not very important because they are basically to only improve the platform of the Antares. Antares खुद के पर्पस के लिए उस सैटेलाइट को लॉन्च कर रही है. ठीक है, the weight is 10.2 kg, and the third satellite, which is the Azadi Sat 2, is a 8.7 kg satellite. Again, by the way, Azadi Sat 1 और Azadi Sat 2 में ये similarity है that both of these satellites have been made by 750 school girls all across India. Okay, So these are the three satellites. Now when we look at the specifications of SSLV which I've already discussed, okay, ये आपने हो सकता है लास्ट ईयर न्यूज़पेपर में पढ़ा भी हो, बट जस्ट टू रिफ्रेश योर मेमोरी, ओके, द कैपेसिटी, सो यू कैन सी कि एक सैटेलाइट ऑलमोस्ट 150 kg का है. देयर आर टू सैटेलाइट्स ऑफ अराउंड 10 kg ईच. ओके, सो 170 का तो पेलोड हो ही गया. ओके, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, okay, excuse me, apart from that, it's not the carrying capacity which is obstructed around 200 kg, but it can carry satellites up to 500 kgs, which is a achievement to carry around a satellite payload of 500 kg, that too with a very very quick assemblage time. So this is one of the most important feature. If you haven't read about the SSLV को assemble करने में it only takes 72 hours as compared to 2-3 months which takes us to assemble the LVM or the PSLV or the GSLV. 2 से 3 महीने लगते हैं उनको assemble करने में. This only takes 72 hours. This is the lightest launch vehicle of the ISRO. The height of it is 24 meters with the 2-meter diameter. Okay, and the lift off weight. अब lift off weight क्या होता है? Lift off weight is when the rocket is taking off along with the fuel, along with the payload. What is the weight of the rocket? The lift off weight of the rocket is 120 tons, out of which 500 kg तक का क्या होगा? Payload होगा. Okay, so this is the SSLV. It's a 3-stage propulsion system. Okay, 3-stage, and they use solid fuel. Okay, so these are some features of the SSLV. Already we have talked about the 3 satellites it's going to launch. It is going to launch them from Satish Dhawan Space Center, which is at Sriharikota. Okay, so this is the another article which you are supposed to go through in detail. Okay, now coming on to the next article, which is a sports article. It's on the sports page of the Hindu, which is regarding setting off a grand debut of Formula E in India. So what is Formula E? Before diving into that, let's look at the news. The news focuses on the fact that India is going to host its first Formula E racing event, which is the Hyderabad E-Prix. Hyderabad E-Prix, which is the India's first Formula E event of FIA. Okay, now Hyderabad में ये कहाँ पर हो रहा है? They have mentioned it is happening on the shores of the Hussain Sagar Lake. There is a 2.835 kilometer circuit which has been prepared on the shores of the Hussain Sagar Lake. Okay, and they have also mentioned about the last Formula 1 event which was conducted by FIA in India, which was the 2013 Formula 1 Indian Grand Prix, which was conducted at the Buddha International Circuit in Greater Noida. उसके बाद से this is the first time FIA has been hosting an event in India. Okay, so जब Formula 1 Indian Grand Prix हुआ था, just a question for you to research on, just a trivia. Who won the Indian Grand Prix in 2013 when India hosted this? Just a trivia for you to research on. Okay, now let's go ahead with the article. So in the article they have also mentioned that this particular Formula E championship is not a very old affair, because obviously it involves electric vehicles. So this was started in the year 2014-15. Okay, and right now it is the 9th session which is going to commence. Okay, also a very important fact that India's Mahindra Racing has been involved with the competition from the very beginning. So Mahindra has a team in the Formula E, and the current composition of the team is a former Formula E champion called Luca Di Grassi. The second driver is Oliver Rowland, and the reserve driver. Now what is a reserve driver? देखो एक टीम में हमेशा 2 ड्राइवर्स होंगे. Both will race. In case something happens to these drivers, they are ill or due to some personal reasons they cannot participate, there is a reserve driver who will take the driver's place. So the reserve driver has been selected as Jehan Daruwala, who is a Formula 2 driver. He is the only Formula 2 driver which is currently representing India. Okay, Jehan Daruwala. Okay, so why is he participating, you must be wondering, because अभी Formula 2 का season start नहीं हुआ है. Okay, so he can participate as a reserve driver. ठीक है. So this is the composition of the Mahindra team. Apart from that, when we talk about Formula E, the first season when Mahindra participated, it had another Indian driver in its team called Karun Chandok. Karun Chandok is also a Formula 1 driver. He is an ex-Formula 1 driver. Okay? And he is only the second Formula 1 driver from India. The first one being Narayan Karthikeyan, as I'm sure everyone will know. So Narayan Karthikeyan was the first Indian Formula 1 driver, second being Karun Chandok. And if Jehan keeps on doing good in Formula 2, there is hope that he will be also representing Formula 1, India in Formula 1. Okay. So hoping that this is the article, okay, and this is the final article in today's video. I hope your newspaper reading is going as planned. Okay, you are not skipping any day's newspaper, because all of this which we are doing is only to give you guidance, but it cannot substitute you reading newspaper every day. Okay, I hope today's class was productive. You must have learned something. Thank you for attending, and we will see you in the next session. Take care. Bye-bye.